Carla, did you call Mr. Soto?
Yes.
He was trying to check in, so I don't know if he was.
Yeah, he said he did.
Okay.
Finally got it.
Get on that page.
Principals.
Sorry. Should I share?
Not this one, right?
We can share.
Not this one. Let's see.
Can you hear me? Kevin signed those?
I did.
Salary already.
Yeah, they're all signed.
Okay. For those people that were the six, that salary, that reflects their salary right there. So it makes the motion to accept that as the.
Yeah, because,
The adjustment.
yeah, because the,
That's like, oh, we're coming back.
I'm pretty sure it's right. It's right. It's right. It's okay. Alejandra, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Elchap,
Here.
Mr. Lindemann,
Here.
Mr. Ramos,
Here.
Mr. Burry.
Here. Item D, approval of minutes for the listed meetings, 1, 2, 3, and 4, including those 2, 3 special meetings. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve as listed.
Second,
Second.
by Mr. Ramos. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
yes, Mr.
Ms. Elchap,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Burry.
Yes. What?
Yes, that's what he said.
You found it? Is it right? Is it accurate? Okay. Summary of current events, Ms. Samaniego.
Good afternoon, Board President, board members, and members of our staff and community. First of all, I want to start off by congratulating 7 of our own teachers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's one more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our own teachers that were board approved at the beginning of last year to attend the Aspiring Principals Academy. And if you remember, the board I made a recommendation to pay for the fee of them attending this academy. So the individual teachers have completed and they graduated this past weekend. So I'm very proud of, the long hours they put into it on their own time, on Saturdays, traveling back and forth. And that is Maria Trinta, Noemi Escalante, Suezan Pineda, Shaylin Fredrickson, and Martha Alonso. And anybody here, Martha, am I missing anybody else, Martha? I think that was, okay, but that was, so they all graduated and had their graduation ceremony, and so they are now part of the class of 23 of the Principals Leadership Academy of Arizona, aspiring principals candidates. So while that didn't give them, a master's program, but I will be making a recommendation in the very near future of a program that will allow some of our teachers to acquire a master's in leadership through a grant, but that will come later. So congratulations. I know it was a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of weekends, but I think a lot of learning and growth, and they will be presenting in the May board meeting to the board on their learning year. So congratulations. Also want to congratulations to the aspiring leaders. Also, we have, want to congratulate our Cochise County Teacher of the Year nominees. We have Elvina Hughes for Ferris Elementary, Ana Ballesteros, Joe Carlson, Ana Daniel, Clausen Elementary, Perla Vasquez, Sarah Marley, Luis Alvarez, Ray Brain Middle School, Andrea Barayardos, Douglas High School, Luis Rivera, Douglas High School new teacher, Josue de la Rey, Stevenson new teacher, and representing DUSD at the county level as a finalist for the high school is Miss Andrea Barayardos. So congratulations to Miss Barayardos for making it to a finalist. So congratulations to all our teachers who will be representing us at Cochise County. And that celebration is Saturday, April 22nd. Also, HOSA just attended some competitions up at the state, and Ms. Alonso informed us that 25 of her students will have qualified for the International HOSA Conference, and they will be traveling at a later date. So congratulations to the students. And that is all I have for now.
Just a quick comment about those in the Leadership Academy.
Yes.
Are they, is that any closer for supervisory or administrative certificate for them? Will they be eligible in the future for consideration of any administrative vacancies?
The program in itself allowed them to get acquire 85 credit hours once they completed the program towards continuing education credits through GCU. So whether that doesn't mean they have a master's or administrative certificate by no means, but they may be able to through ADE acquire a supervisory certificate, for example, with the as long as they meet those qualifications that ADE requires. I know that some of them have expressed the urgency or the want to complete a master's in educational administration and be aspiring principals at DUSD.
Okay,
So
members of the
hopefully.
board, thank you for that. Members of the board, do you have any reports? Mr. Smith? I have one comment to make, and it's one that I've made sporadically through the duration of the construction at the high school. I think this board has been extremely patient with what's going on up there right from the outset. We had and this is just a general statement. We had a deadline, a completion date set, I believe, was November. We're now into, I think, 6 months hence. That's unacceptable. The basic concern always is if you have a delay in construction, anytime I've ever been involved with them, it's always what has been the adversity that it has caused the school district here or anyplace else. And although we haven't really been, let's just say, inconvenienced by classrooms per se, we have been inconvenienced in other areas that I'm not going to get into. The having to keep the lights on to practice for soccer, for baseball, and it would go on and on. But the main point that I think this board needs to consider is that we have a responsibility to the taxpayers in the community. And when people ask us, how long is that project going to go on? I think the board should be able to say, we're nearing completion, or the completion date is here, and we're going to be moving in, and so on. We haven't been able to say that, far from it. And it's been an embarrassment. And I'll tell you that, not that this board is going to consider it now, but there's some options that we can seek a little bit later. But I just wanted to make that general statement about I'm very dissatisfied with the progress that's going on in that construction. There's no excuse. We're 6 months behind and with no end in sight. If you've gone up there and you've taken a look and you look at it maybe on a daily basis, you can see that there hardly is any progress. And it doesn't look to me like there's much activity going on as far as employees are concerned, unless they're hidden in the building somewhere. So anyway, I think we need to let the general public know, the taxpayers of the community, that we are sensitive and that we are cognitive of the fact that it's running 6 months behind. All right, members of the board, do you have any comments?
Yes,
Any
sir.
reports?
Yes, because
Mr.
our stakeholders are, approach her on they approach us and they ask us, and I'm running out of excuses, and we've been very lenient in accepting these delays, but it's right, we have to do something about it.
Well, I think that the appropriate time to do that will be in the very near future. I think the administration has met with them. I think that they have informally expressed to them the dissatisfaction with the board in general about the progress. We're not going to get into a full-blown discussion, but you have expressed those sentiments to them, correct?
Yes, and our architect and Rob and Ellen are well aware, and they are working diligently too with AMP and ensuring and that there's progress being made because we are behind. They are constantly here. Rob visits at least sometimes once a week. He will be down on Friday and did inform me that he was willing to have a meeting with the board or myself if needed, but they are aware.
Well, they can have all those administrative discussions and meetings, and to me, that's eyewash. The proof is in the fact that there's no progress being made that I personally see, and that's just my independent opinion. Alejandro, on the brighter side.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Samaniego, and members of the public. The activity report at DHS and DUSD schools for the month of April is as follows. School highlights. We've got great news to share about our students and staff at DHS. Miguel Fragoso qualified for nationals at the FCCLA State Leadership Conference. 25 members of HOSA qualified for nationals, with several students placing first in their respective categories. Once again, congratulations to Andrea Barallardos. She was selected as a finalist for the Cochise County Teacher of the Year. Winners will be announced April 22nd. What's going on in our district? State testing AASA and ACT at all schools this month, and no Wednesday early release days. At DHS, April 5th is Track Senior Night. April 6th, the second annual Education Night sponsored by PTSO for all juniors and seniors. April 10th through the 13th is Skills USA State Championships. April 13th, Girls Tennis Senior Night. April 14th, SALC Alumni Recognition at Varsity Baseball Game. April 15th, FFA Plant Sale Fundraiser. April 18th, Boys Tennis Senior Night. April 20th through the 21st, Drama Club presents The Addams Family the Musical. April 20th through the 27th, DECA International Conference. April 20th, Baseball and Softball Senior Night. Ray Brain Middle School. This week is the first week of RBMS baseball and softball games. Paul Huber Middle School first spring sports games begin Tuesday, April 4th. Clausen Mile Run practice has begun leading up to our May the 4th Be With You Mile Run in May. Many of our Clausen students have begun writing our soon-to-be-published classroom books, including our kinder students. City of Douglas will be presenting water conservation to all our students in honor of Earth Day. Kinder students will be singing to the residents of Haven. Student Council will have a week for dress-up days, April 17th through the 21st, including National Banana Day. Stevenson, Mr. Josue de la Rie was nominated as a finalist for 2023 Teacher of the Year. Nutrition 101 class, April 20th. Earth Day presentation by the City of Douglas Public Works Department, April 21st. And Kinder field trip to the Tucson Zoo, April 28th. Joe Carlson, PTSO meeting on Thursday, April 6th. Progress reports will be sent home on April 19th. Kindergarten field trip to the Reed Park Zoo on April 21st. Sarah Marley will be holding its annual Dia de los Niños Carnival to support PTSO on Friday, April 28th. And Ferris students will be celebrating Earth Day with the City of Douglas on April 20th with a special presentation by the city's Public Works Department, where Green Friday will take place on April 21st. The Ferris Family Ball will be held on Friday, April 21st, Pie in the Sky event on April 25th, and Ferris Elementary will celebrate Dia de los Niños on April 28th. And that's it.
Thank you. Do we want Mr. Soto to make a report? He's on the phone.
Yes,
isn't
he's on the phone.
he? Does he feel it important to do that? Make a
Yes,
report?
of course.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Soto.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, Board President, Board Members, Ms. Samaniego. Again, this is my monthly report. And like I said last month, at this month's report, you can see that everything has been encumbered, especially the decompression and the one-time for all the qualified employees. So that's the report in front of you. I don't know if you have specific questions about it.
Members of the board, do you have any questions?
No.
Mr. Soto, just quickly, we're going to adopt some salary schedules tonight and reassure us that that we're fiscally solvent and that we're going to be okay doing everything we're going to do here tonight.
Right.
Did you hear?
Is that a lack of confidence or what?
Oh, Mr. Brain, I don't think he heard you.
Well, he didn't hear
Yeah,
what I
no,
said.
yes,
No, not at all.
No, I didn't hear it at all.
Can you hear me, Mr. Soto?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're going to be addressing a lot of money tonight on salaries and classified and also administration and we want to spend as much money as we can reasonably and responsibly. And I just want to reassure the board that the action we take tonight, the action we've taken in the past, is that we're still extremely confident with those numbers that you've given us.
Yes, sir. Absolutely confident.
Well, are you confident that what we do here tonight, that we're going to be what you've assured us for the last couple of meetings we've done this? This is just for reassurance because we're looking at a lot of money here, and the board is ready to do it. I mean, we want to do it, but I just want you one more time to say that go ahead and do it. We're fine. The numbers are good, and if you say we're not, then you equivocate. We're looking at your salary tonight.
No, yeah, no, go. Yeah, very confident, Mr. President. Go ahead.
Very confident, go ahead.
Okay, very confident. That's okay. I wanted to hear that. All right. Do we have anybody who wants to address the board? Did you have anything, Mrs. Scott?
Just a quick update. Our current enrollment as of March 31st is 3,776. We will have a job fair on April 21st here at the district. Mrs. Samaniego talked about the Teachers of the Year. We will have an Employee of the Year celebration on April 28th. And contracts for teachers will begin to go out next week. And that's all I have.
Okay, members of the board, that's a report, but do you have any quick questions or comments regarding any of that? Do you have anybody who wants to address the board? All right. Item number 2, consent agenda items. Approval of the following consent agenda items. Number 1, payroll and expense vouchers, 1, 2, and 3. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Yes, item 3. Discussion action on the approval of certified hires. Ms. Samaniego, before we get into board discussion.
Just as presented, we have 3 subs and 1 English teacher for Paul Huber Middle School for next school year.
Get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Members of the board, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Yes, item B, discussion action on approvals of classified hire. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, an IA being recommended for Sarah Marley Elementary.
Hear a motion to
Move to
approve
approve the classified hire.
by Mr. Lindeman. Is there a second?
A second.
By Mr. Smith. Discussion, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes. Item C, discussion action on approval of certified resignation. Ms. Samaniego.
Mr. President, before we go on to C, I'd like the opportunity to see if Kitsia Romero is in attendance, and we just recommended her for hire, but if she's not, then, okay, we can move on. And Priscila Polanco, not here either. Okay. So certified resignation, Mr. Enrique Duron is submitting a resignation for effective end of school year, which is, his contract ends on June 30th. And so that will create a vacancy at Stevenson Elementary.
For discussion,
I move to approve.
Mr. Lindeman, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I understand fully the circumstances, but I am very sorry to see that Mr. Duron has to leave us, and I thought he was doing a great job.
Is he going to come back before the end of the year?
No, currently he is out on family medical leave.
Okay, any other discussion, any questions, comments, members of the board? No. Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes,
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, did you make a recommendation, not that I don't, from what I know, that it's really not necessary, but is it hireable or rehirable on that?
Yes, free hire.
Well, that's for the record, and then, of course, the administration makes that determination anyhow later, if the board doesn't take any action one way or the other. Item D, discussion action on the approval of classified resignations and retirement. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, you have 4 classified staff in various positions.
Can I get a motion, Mr. Lynn?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
By Mr. Smith. Discussion, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes,
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, item E, discussion action on the approval of increase in hours. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, Joe Carlson is needing a increase of their custodial, one of their custodians, so moving from 5.5 hours to 8 hours.
Have a motion to approve.
move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion, board members. Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes,
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes. Item F, discussion action on the approval of middle school athletic resignation. Ms. Samaniego.
And this is RBMS softball coach, so he's still a teacher, just resigning from coaching softball.
Is there a motion to approve?
move to approve.
It by Mr. Lindeman. A second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Discussion, do you have anybody to take his place?
Yes.
Or do you need
So
anybody?
G is the
Oh, okay.
replacement.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes,
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, item G, discussion action on the approval of addendum for middle school athletics. Ms. Samaniego.
And this is Alejandro Morales, Joe Carlson teacher, will be coaching softball at RBMS.
Can I get a motion to?
move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes,
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, item H, discussion action on the approval of middle school athletic hire. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, again, this is for the RBMS middle school athletic program.
Motion to approve, Mr. Lindeman.
yes, I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Okay, good. Any discussion, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes,
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, item I, discussion action on the approval of request to rescind certified retirement. Ms. Samaniego.
Yes, Mr. Hector Moreno, currently one of our PE teachers at the elementary level, had submitted his retirement effective at the end of this school year, but his circumstances have changed and is requesting to rescind. So we are recommending that it gets approved.
Entertain a motion
Move to approve.
by Mr. Lindeman. Second
Second.
by Mr. Smith. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item J, discussion action on the approval of volunteers. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, you have 3 of them for Douglas High School, and also Cindy Hyostic as a district historical researcher. And so Ms. Hyostic has been doing some work for us that we will be showing on or displaying on our website. We started collaborating with her. She's got great knowledge, great historical knowledge, and her journalism abilities are incredible. And so she is currently working with us in trying to get a history printed and written on behalf of, for each one of our sites, and posted on our website. So we are recommending her as a district historical researcher.
We're very fortunate to have her. She's a highly recognized writer and researcher, as a matter of fact. And in fact, she's awarded many honors for having written. So again, we're fortunate to have her. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Smith was first, I believe, Sergeant at Arms. You almost lost your job last week over somebody. I'm not going to mention a name because you almost lost your job. Roll call.
I have a
I'm sorry,
discussion.
go ahead, Mr.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. Guy Hudson, is that the senior or the junior?
Junior.
Okay, I figured that would be, okay. Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item K, discussion action on the approval of donations received for Douglas Unified School District number 27. Ms. Samaniego.
We have 3 donations, $200 from Pets in the Classroom to 5th grade Ferris Classroom, Mrs. Molina, a donation of $200 to Ms. Leon, from Ms. Leon to softball team at Douglas High School, and donation of $100 food donation bags from Simply Bits to Ferris students, estimated value of $1,500.
Entertain a motion to
I
approve.
move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item L, discussion action on the approval of continuing investment resolution with the Cochise County Treasurer's Office. You want Mr. Soto to handle that?
Sure.
Mr. Soto, is he still on the line?
Yes. Go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Soto.
I'm still here. Thank you. Yeah, this is an annual thing that DUSD does, especially that the county manages and safeguards our money, and this is just again a yearly agreement where we authorize them to do that.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second,
Second.
by Mr. Ramos. Excuse me, members of the board, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Soto?
No.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes, item M, discussion action on accepting the 2022 audit issued on March 3rd, 2023 for fiscal year 2021-22. Ms. Samaniego, do you want to do that, or do you want Mr. Soto to do it?
Either I'll initiate the conversation and he can chime in. So this is a new requirement, and so every audit report that gets submitted, we have to have the board approve it, and that's why we're bringing it to the board. It's a long document. I hope you had time to read it. Nothing really outstanding, and giving us time for any of the items discussed that we are working on. Mr. Soto, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, no, you cover almost everything. Again, this is a new requirement that once the board approves this document, then we have to put it on our website for access to the community if they want to. So I don't know if you have a specific questions in regards of the audit. I just want to point out that every year, I mean, it's getting better and better. So thanks to the business office for that. Again, I don't know if you have any questions.
And this is for fiscal year 2022.
Correct, 21, 22. Mm-hmm.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any further discussion, members of the board, regarding that audit? You saw it. There weren't any significant recommendations on there. The district does always very well with those audits, especially the performance audits. So, roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes, and you know, and it merits commenting that that because of those successful audits and always they're exemplary, that our business office really deserves a lot of credit for that, because you don't get those year after year, those kinds of audits that you know many other school districts get, where they have all kinds of recommendations and they have to go back and rectify mistakes and things like that. So congratulations to our business office, especially Sonia. All right. Did we vote on that? Yeah, we did. Right. Item N, discussion action on the approval of 2023-24 Douglas Unified School District calendar. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay, it's as presented. There's really no change. We still have our early release days on Wednesday. Teacher work days will be Monday, July 31st, and Tuesday, August 1st. The committee, again, felt strongly to start school on a Wednesday instead of a Thursday. It just did things a little bit different for them. And the last day of school will be, I think, May 22nd for students and May 23rd for teachers. You have the fall break, the Thanksgiving, the winter break. So everything is listed there. And last year, this is a leap year, so there was one more extra day that will be part of the 180 instructional days, and 183 teacher days, and so as recommended.
Let's get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve.
Second
Second.
by Mr. Smith. Discussion, members of the board. Mr. Lindeman.
Yes, Mr. President. I think there are too many early release days that are used for PD. And so what I'd like to see is at least one Wednesday a month of early release used for teachers to work and give them enough time. I don't think they have enough time to work on what they need to do. And so I would like to see that happen. Thank you.
Okay. The way the early release days work, we do have a PD calendar per se that we work on at the very beginning of the year. And there are some district PD that have to happen, but they are not every Wednesday, I can assure you of that. And for the most part, I want to say this past year, the principals really had some autonomy into those site-based days and what they identified as needs for their school, because not everybody needs the same PD, not everybody needs the same meeting. And so I think for the most part, I will say, principals really did afford teachers the time to work on Wednesdays. Now, I don't have the calendar in front of me or each one of our principals, but I will make sure we have that conversation with them as they are planning their next school year, and to emphasize, the importance of at least one of those Wednesdays, because I do know teacher planning, teacher grading, collaborating with each other, and then the elementary teachers who don't have any planning time make it even so much harder on them. So that Wednesday becomes extremely crucial for planning and being able to work. So all the principals are here, so they're hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I just wanted to add that I just saw it today, and of course I've known this for my career, that teachers have become more haggard because they don't have time to do what they need to do. And so I think that we should afford them as best we can in our district. Even some of the national schools are going to 4-day school weeks, giving the teachers the whole day to
On
do
Fridays.
things. So I want to just make sure that we are doing the best we can.
Okay,
Thank you.
noted.
Other members of the board? Mr. Ramos?
And teachers do talk to each other. I will, we often hear, I know DA, we have those conversations all the time. And so some principals give them more time, and then another principal may have a meeting. And so it just kind of varies, like I said, by the needs and the demands of the school site. But we will have that discussion to be more cognizant of that time.
That one particular thing is always the most controversial, say, item on the calendar generally, when you present the calendar. And do you have those discussions with the staff and the principals, especially all the time, is how, do they support that fully? Do the principals support that fully? Do they, as leaders in their buildings, do they feel that that's really a
The
worthy-
Wednesday?
Yeah,
Yes, fully support it.
without, for fear of compromising anybody's, any principal out there like to make any comments or reference towards that, because that comes up every year. One board, I raise the issue myself always about the need for it. But you principals do support that, right? I mean, you think it's a worthy exercise and a good expenditure of time and
And
so on?
use of time.
And they're all shaking yes. So I got a motion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
So they know better than we do. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burning?
Yes. Item P, discussion, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Item O, discussion action on the approval of classified staff rehires for fiscal year 2023-24. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, you have all of the names of our classified staff currently in their various positions that we are recommending get a wage notice for next contract year. And they don't get a contract, it's a wage notice. They are, at-will classified employees, with the exception of some of them that are considered term employees. And one of the items, last week the board approved the 75 cents on the hour, and year 2 of adjusting their years of longevity in the district. That will be added to this year's wage notice.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve
I move to approve.
by Mr. Lindemann. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burning?
Yes. Item P, discussion action on the approval of the Douglas Unified School District number 27 administrative salary placement schedule for fiscal year 2023-24. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented and discussed, we've been working on a revision of our current admin salary. The last, probably the year that there was some type of a change made or an increase made was back in 2016, and that was when principals were made 12-month employees from an 11-month contract. The assistant principals went from a 10-month to an 11-month. However, there was not much change to the base, because all that did was due to the funding and the ability of the district to give out raises back then. This was the only way to give those administrators a little bit more money by increasing their days of work and giving them and compensating them for those days of work. So I've been working extensively on something that is competitive, something that will assist us in attracting new hires. We have many qualified, absolute highly effective teachers in our district that I could see potential administrators in many of our schools. And so many of those teachers are earning very good money. And so the current salary, as I explained to you, for some of them, going into, for example, a middle school principal position would mean losing money because you're working more days, more responsibility, and so forth. And so it is our recommendation to approve this salary schedule. And with this salary schedule, principals would only accrue 15 vacation days as opposed to the 20 vacation days that they currently accrue, and versus the full-time employees at 261 days who do accrue the 20 days but don't get the vacation days that the school principals do. So that would be the only difference. The years of job experience stay the same. The longevity pay that was brought by the salary committee has stayed the same. And so that is what I recommend.
Let's get a motion on the floor to approve.
I move to approve.
Mr. Ramos, will you
Yes.
second that? Members of the board, this is something that, you know, that we've been striving to do, and I think this is it's not a gigantic step, but it's a good step forward because truthfully, it gives those administrators a pretty good raise. And, but in looking at that, and I think that as we
Mr. Burien, but we're on the, I think you're ahead.
we're on P, aren't we?
We're on, yes, well, we're doing the salary.
Well,
Uh-huh.
yeah, well, but it's still part of the
yes.
discussion. So when we get to the approval, which is the next item, if you'll look at that, if you'll look at the increases, and the thing that's important there is that the average, I believe, is 8.75 for increase for each one of those people, and that, you know, last year we only gave them 4. And, you know, the administrators have always been, you know, the cliche, I've always said that salaries in this district for all the time were just an afterthought. But the principals are the afterthought. And if anybody ever gotten taken care of is because they said the most about it were the teachers, and the principal just kind of laid back and never said much and figured, you know, that's where the interest is for the teachers, and of course it is. But this salary schedule goes a long way to help us to do something for the principals, not only now but in the future. But the thing that's important, and I know it's the next item, but it's associated with this because it's a salary schedule. All right, is that there's going to be a number of principals there that aren't going to benefit hardly at all on any of this. And so we have to make, you're recommending that there be an adjustment made in there, right? A percentage for them to at least bring them up significantly compared to the other ones, right? Okay, so we can discuss them both at the same time. You don't mind doing that, do you? Or do you want to?
Probably separate.
Well, but the discussion's going to be the same to show what this is going to do. Adopting that shows
Yes.
that's going to do that. So we've got a motion on the floor to accept the schedule. So let's do that. And then we'll come back and accept the contracts, which will be the amounts based on that new schedule. All right?
I move to approve.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos.
We already had a motion.
Oh, yeah, we had a motion on that. Okay. Any discussion, board members, regarding any of that? So when we get to the adoption of and the approval of the contracts, which will reflect that new salary schedule, right? Then it won't take that much discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think it's long overdue. And we all know that we have very fine staff and they work incredibly hard, and we do as best we can for them.
Anybody else, members of the board, any discussion regarding that schedule? Kind of combine them because they go hand in hand. Is it clear what we're doing for 6 of them, I believe, right? When we get to that item, right?
There's
Is it
6.
clear what we're doing for 6 of them?
Yes.
All right, we've kind of given them an adjustment in that?
Yeah.
All right. No further discussion?
No.
Anything you want to add to that on the salary schedule?
No.
All right, so we're voting on the salary schedule now, right? Okay, so roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Barray?
Yes, now we're on the item that, that discusses the issuance. Go ahead, Ms. Smith. The issuance at that level.
Yes.
So if you want to follow up with what I said there. if
Yes,
you
so
want.
based on the salary schedule, and like I said, this is not about giving anybody, a percentage raise, or we're doing something different for the admin than we're doing something for the admin in terms of percentages. Based on the approval of this new certified salary schedule, it is a new placement salary, which allows me to then take each individual and place them accordingly to what was just approved. The salary on 6 people, as mentioned, 6 individuals, they don't benefit any way, shape, or form. They hardly benefit. And so looking at what we were working with to make this happen and staying around those parameters around what the budget allowed for, I am asking that the contract amounts be approved according to what we were provided. The amounts are there. The 6 individuals will receive at least a percentage increase that is according to what is approved by the board and what is comparable to at least what teachers are getting. And so that would allow us to stay within what the amount we had to work with and issue new contracts.
Okay, so we need a motion now to approve the contract with those numbers in there that we went over and combined those two together. So, Mr. Lindeman, will you make that?
I move to approve the 2023-24 employment contracts for directors, principals, and assistant principals.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Discussion, members of the board. I think it's important that the board understand, of course, we discussed this
So,
thoroughly.
right now, you don't have any of the percentages, the figures?
No, your amounts are right there.
No,
Everything is,
This will be it.
that amount is accurate. Mhm.
Okay.
And is what we're recommending.
But just to be transparent, there is a percentage increase by virtue of
The new
of
placement.
adopting that salary schedule. There's a percentage increase for those in there, and as she explained,
They're not
There
standard.
are some that actually got a negative on it that wouldn't have increased. So we had to do
Adjust
what we
it.
could, the additional 5%. Mr. Smith, you have any questions?
None whatsoever.
Mr. Lindeman?
No, I'm good.
How do you, Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Roll call. And that's to issue the contracts with the numbers that are reflected on that salary schedule plus the 5% for those 6 individuals, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Barray?
Yes. Item R, discussion action on the approval of fiscal year 2023-24 employment contract to include benefits for a classified director, and that classified director should have been named, that's Marco Durazo, right?
Yes, and it's in your background.
It's in the
only-
background
yes.
information? Okay.
And the only reason we separate him is because he's the only director that was still grandfathered by the board to keep the benefits health insurance-wise.
Motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, members of the board? Anything the administration wants to add?
No.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Barray?
Yes. Item S, discussion action on the approval of board contributions for health benefits for school year 2023-2024. Ms. Samaniego.
We are moving forward, continuing with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We've met extensively with them, and we are very fortunate to really not see an increase on our contribution. There will be an increase of 4.03 after, negotiations from our consultants for an estimated cost of $151,373. But we were fortunate because of our, I shall say, good health of our employees, that our utilization is not that high. We have a credit of 150,000. 151,000 that is going to kind of balance out the new increase. And so the recommendation is for the board contribution to go to be $710 per month. $8,520 annually to our employees. We don't, our employees don't see it as part of a salary, but is a benefit giving to them. And Delta Dental will continue to be our dental provider with no charge in premium from no increase in charge.
What's the total cost to the district? Is that $2,992? Is that, what's the total cost of the
The
district?
total cost is $2,992,500. $2,992,500.
And that's for single coverage, right?
Yes. Mr. Soto, do you need to add anything?
No, that's basically what it is. I mean, that's the total cost that the district pays for health insurance. And like Mr. Samaniego said, I mean, we're very fortunate that the district still be able to cover for our employees. And by increasing the board contribution to $710, we're actually helping to the employees that have the other kind of packages, like the family or the children. Of course, they're going to see an increase, but it's not going to be as big of an impact for them. So again, it's a great benefit for the employees of this district, like Mr. Samaniego said.
Mr. Soto, what do you mean by you have an average of 365 employees? What do you mean an average?
Well, I mean, it varies, as you know, that some people, come in or drop and stuff. So annually, average is that's the amount of employees that we have.
And that's
Participating in the insurance.
And that's single coverage only?
Correct.
Okay, and that costs the
Correct.
district almost $3 million a year, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And at one point in time, were the employees given an option? Did you ever discuss with them that whether they wanted that particular benefit as opposed to taking that $3 million and putting it on the salary schedule? Was that ever discussed with them?
Not under my superintendency or when I was in HR. I don't think that discussion. I don't know about Mr. Soto. He's been here longer in
No, I
central
don't
office.
remember having that discussion at all.
Because if that's single coverage, and if they want to get family coverage, of course, then they have to pay the difference, right?
Yes.
But
Correct.
I don't know how the employee would reconcile having that benefit of and I'm talking about all the employees, not only the ones that participate.
I do recall a conversation, I believe, with Ms. Brita a few years ago where and I think that was when I was in HR, possibly for example, some employees who don't select to use our insurance, so they kind of lose out on that benefit, and would there be an option to get the additional dollars, right, Brita? I think that's what I think when Mr. Aguayo was here. So at least I remember that conversation, but it didn't, go anywhere. Because some employees do deny or fill out that, they don't need the coverage because they either have insurance with their spouse or they may have another type of a health plan, so they don't utilize it, but then they lose out on that benefit. So
Okay, you have a motion
that
on
could
the
be
floor?
something we could work on.
Do you have any, well, I don't know, I just, there might be some employees that say, I'm not taking it, and that's $7,000 that those other employees are benefiting by virtue of taking the insurance, and that's money in their pocket, they don't have to, you don't have to worry about those premiums. So I don't know if it'd be worth it to ask the employees again. I don't know, Martha, did you people ever discuss that with your organization?
Not in the time that I've been a president. What we have discussed is just making it clear to employees when they get hired that that's one of the benefits, and showing this is what your salary is, this is your benefit, and actually showing how much they're getting for that insurance to help employees be aware of it, but we haven't asked for it.
So if it were an issue, or you thought it would be something worthwhile discussing, you would have already done it, right? I mean, lack of discussion doesn't mean that there's lack of interest in seeing, trying to make a comparison, so to speak.
I think the first thing would be to educate our employees and say this is what the benefit is, and see how many are not utilizing it, and for them to make that realization. I don't know how many people don't use the insurance though.
because I, for one, and this is going to be the last thing I say about that, is that $3 million, if that were applied to the salary schedule, that would be a considerable jump, and it would really be something that this board, as we're striving for all the time, we're trying to do as much as we can to get up as high as you can. That $3 million would go a long way.
I think, to be honest with you, considering it would be where, if we're using spousal insurances, for example, we are, the second or third largest employer? I mean, if the spouse is working maybe at the prison or for the county, they might have an option. But I think in general, in our community, this is what people use for insurance, but we can definitely look into it.
Okay, that was just a thought. Do we need a vote?
motion.
Go ahead.
A motion.
Oh, we need a motion? Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
move to approve.
Second? Second. By Mr. Ramos. Members of the board, do you have any, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, I
Ramos.
just wanted to say that I understand that we're one of the very few districts that will pay for the insurance, and so I think that's a valuable benefit. And then Ms. Alonso has pointed out that it's needed, it's used.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to see it go away.
No, and I'm not suggesting that it does, but I'm, that, the only thing is that, when you let something ride over and over and over, then, people get entrenched in that idea and say, well, that's just a given, that's the way it is. But that they would have the option to discuss it and come back and say to the board, we thought about it, no, we'd rather have that $7,000 benefit, or, put it, and then we'll worry about our own insurance. But it's only for individual, not for the family.
Right, but if the individual did not want that, they would have to go and buy insurance on the market, and that would be a lot more expensive.
Of course, and that would be one of the considerations in whether they would opt to put it on the salary schedule, or, Mr. Smith, you were going to say something?
That was kind of the point I was going to bring up. I think if they are wanting to, say, educate the teachers for them to start looking if that was an option, they need to take into consideration that because of the number of people that you have on the plan, it's getting at a considerably reduction to what it was they would get by just going on the open market.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, like with our own health insurance, between what I could get it for and what my wife could get it for, there was a major difference. And going on a plan like this, where you have a large number of people contributing to it, it usually comes out a whole lot cheaper than what you can get it on the open market.
If they decided to take it, and whether their spouse, maybe their spouse in another arena,
Right.
getting it, so.
Sure.
So anyway, it was just something they might want to consider. Mr. Ramos, did you have something to add? Nothing. All right, roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Alcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes, item T, discussion action on the approval of creating the CTE construction technology teacher position and job description. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay. As presented, if you recall, Douglas High School used to have a construction class, and for many, many years. And then that position, the person left the district, and for some reason it just went away. So the job description had existed under CT Director Rob Doctor. And so I'm just bringing it back because of the new construction that is being added onto the high school. There is a construction class that's being part of the new addition to the high school. So that merits a construction teacher, and that's why we're bringing this.
Are you suggesting that the teacher and the students help those people finish?
Maybe.
That might be what they
Probably
are.
get a group going starting Monday. And this is going to be funded out of CTE.
Was the job description one you already had?
It was one we already had. I could not find, and neither could Alma, that there was a board approval, like date stamp or anything. We couldn't find anything in the minutes. It's just a bunch of job descriptions that were back when Rob Doctor was here. So I felt the need to just bring it. And then the description of the class, it's CTE construction technology, and that's just based on the new terminology according to the class under CTE.
And of course, you discussed it with the high school people, right?
Yes.
And is there a need for it? I mean, do you really think there'd be an interest in it?
Yes, prior to us getting awarded the funding to add on to the high school, I know that that discussion had happened a while ago, and for the need to bring construction back again, but because of, the room and the, ability to have that class within the existing high school. And so once we got approved, we kind of just held back on that direction until the construction was done. And now that it's near done, we have, as part of the plans and the blueprints, there is a construction lab and class being built in one of those buildings.
What would the instructor look like?
Look like?
Certification.
Certification, well, obviously, construction, CTE, according to CTE, ADE requirements, those CTE teachers have to provide X number of hours of, in their field. Then they have to do some classes once they get certified. So it's just, there's some certification. It's not just anybody walking into campus and saying, I can teach. They have to be appropriately certified as a CTE.
Board discussion, get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Members of the board, any feeling regarding that?
I think it would be beneficial.
Yes.
Especially for our students. That's something that I strongly feel would be to the best for the district to have a construction class there, so.
And the first project they could have would be to assist the contractors over there, right?
Yeah.
Help them complete
Maybe
that.
they can finish the
Mr.
parking
Lindemann-
lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Mr. Lindemann.
Mr. Smith brought up an interesting comment earlier, and I don't want to take his
Go ahead.
but construction. We both work construction, and that encompasses a whole bunch of skill level, And so I'm wondering if one teacher can handle all that. I mean, you've got the electrical, you've got the plumbing, you've got the, the cement work, whatever. So I'm just wondering how that would fit in.
That was kind of, along the same lines. I was kind of curious as to what kind of a curriculum they had on that. It could serve a number of purposes, obviously, teaching the kids something of a skill that, once they get out, if they decide to move into it, or, as I learned, it was something I definitely didn't want to keep doing. You can learn that real quickly. So
If I may add, that many years ago when I had to take the apprenticeship for a millwright, they taught me electricity, the basics, electricity, plumbing, carpentry, masonry, and a little bit of, not engineering, but, oh my God, I forgot the term for the position.
Carpentry?
No, my son is not, anyway, we had to know a little bit of everything because we were going out in the field. And a class like this, you could go to any direction you want to go, having the basics. You can see, I like this. I may continue to be an electrician. I may be a machinist was the term, going to a machine factory, where they do parts and so forth. Anyway, it gives that person the ability to take a good look at what they want to get into before they say, I want to be a plumber, want to be a carpenter, or want to be a electrician. It gives an idea because you get a little bit of everything, so it would be good.
And you have, there will be space for it up there, of course,
Yes,
right?
that there's a specific construction lab and classroom. And to the curriculum question, Mr. Young, is he here? Oh, okay. Why don't you come up, Martha? And Brita, both of you want.
Good evening, Mr. President, Ms. Samaniego, members of the board. Brita and I are both CT teachers, and so I can kind of answer the curriculum question. School Consortium, we have a consortium that has curriculum for all of our programs, and they do start with year 1, year 2, year 3, and up to year 4. in a program like this, you would start with year one. As you move the students up and there's a lot of interest and there's room, you can add additional teachers. But they have everything delineated. There's state and national standards that they follow. I did happen to go to the Skills USA regionals, I guess you could say, and they had carpentry. The areas that they competed in were masonry, carpentry, and they had construction and plumbing were the three areas that they had. And it's pretty amazing to see the students work and how quickly, well, it took the entire day, it wasn't quickly at all, but they constructed half of the building, they constructed chairs, they constructed benches, and they built 2 different walls using different types of materials during the day for their competitions. So all of those are included. It's just a matter of which year it's taught. And yes, if you have a lot of interest and a lot of students, you could expand it to multiple teachers.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Alcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes, item D, U, discussion action on the approval of creating the K-3 literacy coach position and job description. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, you have on your background that with the passing of Senate Bill 1572 and ARS 15704, beginning in this school year, actually, the State Board of Education has adopted statewide kindergarten entry evaluation tool to administer to pupils in kinder through kinder programs within the 45 calendar days. And so this amount of work or amount of added onto our kinder teachers who are already teaching a full day, don't have planning period, and so forth to meet the needs of this Senate bill, need that extra support. So if you read on your background information, this coach will have to oversee the implementation of the kindergarten early assessment, known as the KEA, other professional development to the kinder teachers in effective use of, as required by KEA, overseeing and uploading data, working with the principals, working with K-3 teachers in the implementation of letters, phonics training programs offered by ADE, DIBELS, and all of our curriculum that affects our K-3 cohorts. So similarly to the Move On When Reading, this position is being funded by the Early Literacy Grant that supports the K-3 reading. You have a job description that is attached to for your review and approval, and again, being funded strictly out of the Early Literacy Grant, and salary will be based on the certified teacher salary schedule.
Where did the job description come from? Did you guys create it?
Yes, Denise worked on it.
And who's going to oversee that?
That's in the curriculum department, Mrs. Herrera.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion, board members.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Rather than creating a new whole position, is this something that can be absorbed within our existing staff? And I'll tell you the reason I'm saying that is because I would rather hire more teachers, more elementary teachers, than fund another, administrative position or something. And so I'm not really thrilled with this, but I know it's grant funded.
Yes.
But still, is this something that we can do with our existing staff?
With our existing coaches, Mrs. Herrera, can you please come up, since you are the one that's proposing this and handling the new demands?
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Mrs. Samaniego. This position is strictly for K-3 literacy only. Our current coaching positions, we have very limited number of coaches, and we share coaches with multiple sites. The K-3 literacy grant allows us to hire personnel and purchase supplies for the literacy program. This is a grant that we automatically receive each year. Last year we received $115,000. This year it was $118,000. So currently in the grant we have $248,000. And then next year we'll receive another between $115,000 and $118,000. As Mrs. Samaniego, explained, with the rollout of the Kinder Early Assessment Program, it is quite extensive. And to ask a teacher to do this on top of any teaching duties would be far too much to ask of any individual. The KEA requires documentation to be uploaded, videos, photos, for the first 45 days of school, but then it also continues throughout the year, and it's part of the Teaching Strategies Gold program that is already implemented in the district by our preschool program. So I would see it as very difficult even for one of the existing coaches to take this extra duty on top of everything else. But they're not only going to be in charge of the KEA, because we also have our 95% program, which is our early phonics program. So this particular person would also be in charge of overseeing that program, especially for our kinder students and our first grade students, where we see phonics as our basic reading. And if they don't have those skills, or if we have new kinder or first grade teachers and they really don't know much about the 95% program, this person would be in charge of professional development, making sure the implementation of 95% went out. The testing, it also includes DIBELS in there. So they would also be in charge of the DIBELS program and making sure that the pre-assessments were done, the progress monitoring is done, and then also part of our literacy plan. They would also be part of the district's literacy plan. So it's quite an extensive position.
Go ahead.
May I? Okay. I read here in the background information that the passing of this bill was 22-23, so it was existing. What did you guys do today? What did you do this year?
So what happened was in August, ADE reached out to several districts that already had implemented the Teaching Strategies Gold, and we were supposed to be one of the pilot districts. We're not sure what happened at ADE, but it was supposed to be implemented fully in August. But unfortunately, they hadn't trained anybody. The current kindergarten teachers didn't know anything about what was included. As far as administratively was concerned, no one had received any training.
So we didn't do it this year?
No one in the state did. So what the state has done is, it was about December, I received an email from them saying that they were going to start offering trainings. So they have opened up close to 100 different training sessions from Teaching Strategies Gold. I have actually completed 9 hours of training. 3 of it were administrative and 6 of it was the teacher side of it. Then we had an informational meeting from ADE where they are requiring that all kinder teachers in districts assess 25% of our kinder students right now, just so the teachers can get used to the program and the system, because it's a huge learning curve. Then they put it on pause because they did receive some pushback from some of the larger districts. And then about a week ago, I received another email saying that it has been re-implemented, but just for this year, they are reducing the number of strategies or principles, as they call them, that kinder teachers will be required to assess their students on. And it has gone to from 27 to 5, but within each category, there's multiple areas that teachers have to assess. So that's where we're at right now. And ADE also changed the requirement for just right now, so they're only asking for 3 hours of training through TSG versus the 6 hours. And I'm happy to say that our kinder teachers have completed the training. I have completed the
So
training.
this says K through 3.
Correct.
And you keep saying kinder, so
So
is
I-
it only kindergarten?
No, this position is K-3, but one of the, probably the largest components will be overseeing the KEA program.
For
and making
kinder.
sure
For
For kinder. There is a lot of documentation that has to be uploaded to the state, which they do check. They will be auditing us, as they do every district. And we want to make sure that we are in compliance.
How long does this grant run? Is it a 2-year
This-
grant? Or is it?
No, this is a grant that we receive every year.
So as long as the
As long
funds-
as we qualify each year and we continue to have the number of free and reduced lunch students that we do, we will be receiving this grant.
Okay, so it sounds like the teachers have to do a whole lot more work, so I want more time for the teachers to do these things. So I go back to the, at least one early release Wednesday a month for the teachers. And I still want to hire teachers to cut our classroom size. That is very important to me, and I think we need to do that. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, board members?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Salchow?
Hi. Deborah, what I wanted to know is just kind of piggybacking a little bit off of Mr. Lindemann's question. Well, what is probably the biggest difference between this position and a regular coach?
A regular coach
Like a regular reading coach, yeah.
We specifically don't have a reading coach. We have coaches that cover math and reading. So this particular position would only cover K-3 reading. That is, or K-3 literacy. That is it. That is all they will be able to do.
Okay, and maybe you can answer this, but probably Denise could answer, or Ms. Cox could answer this. Is what is our teacher to student ratio in elementary?
Yes.
On paper, 28.
Yes.
Approximately.
Yeah, approximately the average is 28 to 1.
To
Some classrooms, Denise, may have 29.
Some may be as low as 24, 25. Some may be as high as 30, 31.
Well, that's heavy.
Yes. Especially
thank
in
you.
the foundational grades, Mrs. Salchow.
Yes, I can see that. And you're correct when you use the word foundational. I mean, everything kind of comes from these grades.
Yes.
Is that it, Ms. Salchow?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Will you provide the structured supervision of that position?
Yes, I will
do
be
you have
overseeing.
Do you have a plan in place for what, I know you got a job description and you answered a lot of questions, Mr. Lennon, but do you feel comfortable that person's going to be well supervised and directed?
Yes,
What
I
the
will
be-
be overseeing them, and they will be working hand in hand with our elementary principals
Mr.
And the
Lennon, you have
teachers.
anything else?
and the teachers.
Well, no, I think that whatever we can do for our students is what we should be doing. And that's why, again, I see the smaller class sizes. I would like to see some reports, though, of our progress. I don't know how we're going to, and that should be all the time anyway.
Yes.
So,
And this position is for next.
It's next school year.
Next school year.
Yes.
Nothing we're going to fill immediately, because I wouldn't want to, there may be a teacher within our district that would like to apply, and that creates a vacancy. So this, with the changes that AD, so this is what AD did. It rolled something out without being prepared, and then pulled back, and took a break, and now has come back and said, okay, we're still going to enforce it, but at a smaller scale. So we can do with that smaller scale through the end of the year. And this recommendation would be for next year, as next year it would be, I would assume, full-blown
Yeah,
and
it
more
will be
direction from AD.
effective. So the kinder early assessment is effective the very first day of school. Our kindergarten teachers will need to be up and running and be ready to assess their students as they walk in the door, as required by ADE.
Are the principals supporting it?
The K-3 literacy,
I mean, are
yes.
they even aware that the administration was going to present this tonight? How do you feel about that, Mr. Lindeman? Are you supporting it, or?
Well, I'm going to support it because I think that, we have to do what the state commands us to do, but on the other hand, what's best for our district and our students? That's always foremost in my mind.
Thank you, Ms.
You're welcome.
Well, if he's supporting it, we don't need to vote on it. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, do you have any further discussion regarding the
No, I do
position?
not.
How about you, Mr. Ramos? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berrain?
Yes. Item B, discussion action on the approval of sponsoring selected certified teacher for legal permanent residency work status. Ms. Samaniego.
I will initiate the conversation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Cox, since she's been working directly with HR and our attorney. So currently, as you know, we've hired these past 8, 9, 10 years, J1 teachers. J1 teachers are teachers that come from a foreign country and have the ability to stay and work up to 5 years. Once that 5-year mark is done, they are able to, they have to return to their home country and then reapply after 2 years. Recently, in the last 5 or 6 years, along the J1 teachers, we have also hired teachers under an H1 visa status. And H1 visas, teachers have come from Mexico. Our neighboring city, Agua Prieta, we've been very fortunate with the quality of teachers under our H1 program. And so these individuals, and I am going to be pulling one of the teachers named on here, Rose Amamangpong, is not part of this group because she just started with us, so she wouldn't be one that is near the end of the program. So we've been working with our attorney, looking at where these teachers are in the years of service that they have under their current status, and working with our principals. If these individuals were to stop the ability to fulfill their job responsibility at the concurrent time, because each one of them, it has a different time frame for their working visa, that would put us in a very tough situation with highly qualified, and appropriately certified teachers. Most of these teachers are hired under an emergency teacher status until they have 3 years to work on their deficiencies. And so we got an approval or recommendation from each site administrator, whether they would be recommending us to at least entertain this idea. I had talked to Mr. Berrain about the process, because I know in the past, years ago, there was one J1 teacher that acquired residency. Now, I'm not sure how that process was done. Our attorney, I've discussed it with our attorney, Jessica Sanchez, and Denise has met many times with Phil Ortega, who is available by phone if we need to ask him any questions. And so normally districts, she says, you can just keep your board in the loop as to the process, because this is an HR internal. But I, after talking to Mr. Berrain, said, well, take it to the board so that we are aware and approving whether we allow you to move forward with this. Teachers are in good standing, have good evaluations, have a recommendation from the principal. And there's a lot of information that was provided to you, because it is an extensive process. It's a process that we need to start now, because it's going to take over a year and so forth. If you notice, Mrs. Cox will talk to you about, some of the attorney fees, some of the responsibilities that are on behalf of the employee, and I believe that employees should be paying for some of these fees. It's their responsibility too, if they want this permanent status. So Mrs. Cox, do you want to talk about that?
Okay. So as we've talked, we see that we need teachers, and the teachers that are on the list here all come with good standing, good recommendations, highly effective, and we would hate to lose them, but we will follow, all our attorneys' advice. And so it is a process, and it's a lengthy process. It's about a year to 3, and there are varying, every year it's a little bit different in what we have to do. So the cost is better if we do it as a group than if we do it individually, and that's why we brought it to you as a group. And again, as Mrs. Samaniego stated, some of the requirements for some could be that their visa, or I'm sorry, their J1 or H1 visas will expire in 2024, some 25, 26, and so we want to get ahead of the process so that we're not trying to do this in a rush. Okay, so there are legal costs, as Mrs. Samaniego said. There is a cost to the district, and there will also be a cost to the employee.
Before we get a motion on the floor, for discussion, break the costs down.
Okay, so at the very end of the presentation, it's the what must be paid by the employer. It's attorney fees of $3,000. Okay, and that's an estimation. Advertising costs run between $1,000 to $1,500, and we have to advertise the positions in national sites. So there's a lot of advertisement we have to do. And then there's also the petition costs, which could cost about $1,000, and then filing fees, in roughly about $700 for filing fees.
But those filing fees are going to be done by the employee
By the
themselves.
employee,
So the
yes.
cost to the district for these group of teachers is under $30,000. So it would be the $3,000 attorney fees are an estimate. It could be less.
Each?
Yeah, $3,000 each. So as a group, the attorney fees will be much less. So approximately, including the $1,500, let's say maximum advertising fee, that is not per employee, it's just as a group, we advertise all the positions. It would cost us under $30,000 to be able to support these teachers in this process, and it would cost each one of them about $1,700 or so.
Roughly.
Mr. Soto, before the board gets involved, is he still, he's in Laughlin, right? I hope he's not at cocktail hour yet.
No, he's on the phone.
Is he still available?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Where would that money in the budget come from for the board to know?
There will be, there's lots of different funds that we can look at, and most of the ones that we probably use is the MIP fund.
Okay, just so the board has an idea of how the district's gonna pay for it, it's got all.
Yes.
So, get a motion on the floor so we can discuss it.
I move to approve with the exclusion of the individual named.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Smith, any discussion?
I have
A whole lot.
quite a few questions here. So when we're talking about all of these teachers here are, they're basically here on visas, non-immigrant visas for the 12 positions. And are they all wishing to become LAPers or the lawfully admitted for permanent residents over
Yes.
there? Well, then, whenever they're talking about the attorney fees, when we're talking about the advertising of the positions and so forth, that's usually a Department of Labor
Yes.
part-
Requirement.
requirement for the visas, for the non-immigrants. For people that are coming in as lappers, they really don't have to advertise for their position because the position, the legal status is not dependent upon the position. So are they still going to have to furnish those fees? Because those should only come into place if you're looking to rehire more or non-immigrant visas, such as the J1s, the H1s.
Well, This is the attorney advertising cost, and he did share with us that it was a federal, Department of Federal Labor
Yes.
requirement for the advertising of our positions. We have him, he's available by phone, because I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Right.
Only he, because he's the one that's submitting this
Mainly if,
information.
you know, whenever you guys talk to them, this
Uh-huh.
is some of the
Okay.
stuff, because where the Department of Labor is coming into it, they're saying the reason that they advertise, the reasoning behind it is they want to make sure that they don't have any U.S. citizens, you know, that
That are
prefer the
available,
job,
yes.
so that why we're going outside the country to fill them.
Yes.
That's the purpose behind it.
Yes.
Whenever you're talking about the lawfully admitted for permanent residence, that, for them living here, does not depend upon whatever job they have. Once they have that status, they could do work wherever they want to. So the advertising fees, unless you are planning on replacing those or getting additional non-immigrant visas, I kind of question where the advertising would come into play, because it shouldn't be needed for the
This
LAPR
purpose.
status.
Okay.
And if I may, he did let us know that we had to post them because we couldn't take the position away from somebody who's
Right.
legally in the United
And
States.
again, that usually comes into play with the visas. Any of
Any of
the non-immigrant visas, basically people who are not coming here for permanent residence, who have the 5-year limit or so
Yes.
forth, those are the ones that they're advertising for over there. So that's why I want to make sure, at least
Okay.
nothing else, give you
Okay.
the information so that you can ask and see.
Okay.
That may reduce some of those costs a little.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mr. Lindeman?
That's good, thank you.
Mr. Ramos?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one question. If the district sponsors this employees, and once they obtain, is it a permanent residency or is it a temporary visa?
It's a permanent residency from what we understand. It's an application for permanent residency, the green card, which
It
is what they.
yes, permanent
Okay, and-
residence.
Once they obtain that, would they be here for several years or just after they receive it, would they take
Yes.
off?
So something, and that is a concern. Obviously, you know, you sponsor somebody, and then they move away or they leave. So something that we are working with, our other attorney, not this attorney he's focusing on the immigration paperwork, is an agreement that is going to be like a binding or, you know, something that Jessica will draft, and which other districts are doing, because other districts are sponsoring people, stating, you know, something to, you will stay for a minimum of 5 years in the district. And so that is something that if it's approved, and wherever we are with the status, because like I said, this is nothing that's going to happen overnight, and it's going to be all based on where they are in their J1 or H1 visa status. So whenever it comes to it, and let's say it does happen and they get approved and they get the green card, there will be some agreement that we want to put in force.
Will that agreement be given to them before they get
Yes.
it, you know?
No,
you
yes.
know?
Yes.
Okay.
The trouble with those agreements is they're not enforceable.
Yeah.
That's the bad thing. They can sign all they want. They're very unlikely they'd be enforced.
But it looks good.
You know, just to answer part of your question, and I don't want to supersede what she said to you, but that memo was written by the trust, and the person in the trust that wrote that was Ortega, was that?
Yes,
It's-
Phil Ortega,
yeah.
yes,
He is the immigration specialist in
Udall.
Udall and Shumway, which is the law firm that handles. Now, if there's an issue or something, now this is a specialty area, right? In the trust, then we have to go to other attorneys. We always rely on Jessica for just general personnel matters and all those kinds of things. But when we get this technical, so if he put that in there, the specifics in there, you can rely on what he has to say, and that's just for general information. In other words, if we do what he says, the main thing always is legal opinion. It says that we're shielded from any liability.
Sure.
So just, and I know you know that, all of those things personally. I know you know that. But when it
Your
comes to
profession.
school districts, then we have to rely on the trust and the area of specialty that the person who drafted that for us, that opinion in that agreement on, just so you know. But
Right.
and I respect your background, and I know you understand all of that better than we do.
Mr. Chair, I did have that raised a quick question. Are all these teachers teaching now?
Yes.
So any agreement would be moot, because if they're here now, chances are they're going to stay.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a good chance, but we want to make sure we at least have something. You know, we're taking this going the extra mile. We've been working with the teachers. We're very happy to have them working for us under their current status. That eventually is going to go away if we don't move in this direction. And so, Mr. Smith asked, you know, are these teachers wanting the sponsorship? Absolutely. And unfortunately, maybe at a time there will be some teacher that wants us to sponsor, but because of their evaluation, their work ethic, whatever, it's not something that we would recommend. And unfortunately, there will be some situations like that. And so these are fully committed staff that wants to stay. Right, teachers? They're all here. They're all here.
Yeah, and in the scheme of this whole question, we know what's happening all around the state and the nation on certification of teachers and the difficulty of getting them, and what we settled for high school graduates as substitutes. I mean, it's a multiplicity of things that are going on regarding certification, and with these people, they're all proven that they're doing a good job for the district, or they wouldn't be here. So I'm going to recommend that we do it. And do we have a motion on the floor? Yes, and the cost would be absorbed by, Mr. Soto needs to tell us specifically when he gets a chance, not now, exactly where he's going to take that money from to pay for that, okay?
What are the slot machines?
Slot machines.
What are the slot machines?
From the slot machine.
He's taking your place in law, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. All right, so any further discussion, anything you want to add?
No.
In all fairness, you people that are the topic of discussion here, do you want to add anything on your
Say
behalf?
anything?
Come on up to the
And this
podium.
is Miss Silvia Bojorquez. And I hired her she came straight from Mexico,
From Mexico
City, but originally from Agua Prieta, I believe.
That's right. Mr. President, members of the board, Mrs. Samaniego, I appreciate the opportunity. As you know, as they mentioned, we really wanted to stay. And there is a situation here that once the H-1 visa or the J expires, we cannot stay any longer in the district. So it's not matter if we want to stay or not when the visa expires. So either we go back to Mexico or we have to look for another district that would like to hire us. And we would like to mention that we work very hard to get the certificate. And we want to use it to work here in this district. So that's the reason that we were looking for and talking with Administrator with Denise and everything. So for you to know that we don't want to go, and we are certified, and we're going to stay. We would like to stay if you want us. Thank you.
Any comments, questions from the board?
I would say one more thing.
Sure, absolutely.
about
Go
this.
ahead.
Obviously, the people on this list over here, they have the option, since they are here at a visa. They, as the lady said, they are going to be required to return. They're going to be required to leave this position, whether they want to or not,
yes.
unless they do, as they ask for sponsorship and become lappers. Okay, once they do that, then they could stay for as long until they retired, or however long they want to do it. But this, by approving this, by going through there, that will definitely show that the people who are wanting to stay, giving them an opportunity that they may not have if they just stay as a visa. So,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You know, and while you're up there, I just personally want to tell you that I'm very grateful for the fact, not just because you're at RBMS, but I mean, you're all scattered through the district. No, I'm serious about this. You people bring a very unique quality to the classroom, especially dealing with the students in the Douglas Unified School District. you know, and I don't have to tell you the difficulty in language proficiency of a lot of our students. And you people can relate to that. And not only are you a role model, but you can empathize and commiserate with the problems that they're having as they go through school, whatever the grade level is, and the problem they're having with language. And that's something that's not on paper, you know, when you look at your certification and your visas. And so I just wanted to say that to you and all of you that are making that contribution to the district, okay?
Thank you.
So thank you. So Ms. Bojorquez has spoken on behalf of all of you, unless anybody else wants to say. Mr. Recinto, Mr. Docto? No?
No. Everything has been said.
Thank you.
But
All right.
You want to say something?
oh, okay, let's say something.
Mr. Jacinto is a math teacher at Douglas High School.
No, Mr. Maniego, I'm an English teacher.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ew, he's gonna be
Mr. Ray
mad.
Borain, members of the board, Mrs. Samaniego, good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to express ourselves and for the district to consider to sponsor us for permanent residency. I started as a J1, which is an exchange teacher program, and really it lasted for 5 years. I'm just so lucky that I had a daughter whom I was able to procure a waiver, so I don't have to go back to the Philippines and stay there for 2 years, so I can stay. And fortunately, the district worked for my working visa, which is an H-1B. And then for an H-1B visa, our family cannot work. Our sons who are going, our children who are graduating from high school couldn't get any scholarships because we are not residents. Unless, you know, there are some universities who are very generous to provide international scholarships. Because until now, we are still considered, since we're not residents, so we are still foreign, okay? We're still foreign teachers. So with your sponsorship, I've been here for 8 years, and then my visa is gonna expire in 2025. And that will be my 10th year here for the district, working for the district. So there is no doubt when it comes to my loyalty, when it comes to our loyalty. So we really want to work for the district, and we will stay here for as long as you want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it, board members? I want to remind you people, too, that if you have any thoughts at all about breaking those commitments or anything like that, of course, I said earlier, they're unenforced. Mr. Smith is a former Border Patrol supervisor.
Yes. We will have him go find you. He's a good investigator.
And if he has to go to the Philippines, he'll get you.
Although we are free to go to Mexico for now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank all of you. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Borain?
Yes. Item W, discussion action on the approval of the social studies textbook. Thank you. Discussion action on the approval of the social studies textbook adoption for grades 6 through 12. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay, let me clear my tears. Thank you, board, for really supporting our mission to keep the teachers. Okay, so you want to go ahead?
No, because you're going to make me cry too. Okay, the next item is the discussion action on the approval of the social studies textbooks that Ms. Herrera has been working with committees and teams to get the curriculum up to date here in our district, which is something that we need to do.
Okay, so you want...
All the background is there. We've followed the RFP process to the T, and before you and is the recommendation, the process that was taken, and because we have several textbooks for approval, you'll see that the next few items are individual by the curriculum or the textbook name. And so for all of those action items, the same RFP process was followed, committee work, extensive information, teacher input, and it is time, long overdue, that our kids get better resources, textbook wise. They're in, a lot of our social studies, I think this is social studies, are in really bad shape. You remember, Mr. Lindeman, you probably from when we taught, they're still there. And in very, very bad shape. The high school as well. So that is the list of recommended for social studies.
Get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion on
Yeah.
that particular adoption?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. As Mrs. Samaniego mentioned, yes, I remember those days where the books are falling apart and the kids have to, but there also was not enough for each student. Are we going to be able to get enough for the students?
Yes, and so, Mrs. Herrera, do you want to just talk on the general that's going to happen for every single one of those?
Good evening again, Mr. President, board members, Mrs. Samaniego. Yes, we have multiple options depending on the grade level. For social studies, we will be purchasing for the high school digital textbooks and print textbooks. So each teacher at the high school will be receiving a class set. Then we are also going to be purchasing some additional textbooks that will be housed in the library for any student who does not have access to internet. So they will be able to go in and check out a physical textbook. Each one of these also includes digital resources, which can be videos, documents online. For social studies, they are able to take virtual tours of, like, say, the Smithsonian. They have interactive maps, updated maps, which is very nice, not 1995 maps. And yeah, the process was very extensive. One of the requirements that we had to do were multiple questions, because we are funding this with government money through ESSER 3, was that we had to make sure that diverse perspectives were followed. That is one of the government requirements, which also follows 15.17.02, which is part of the new legislative where we're not allowed to teach certain things. We had to make sure that was all part of our adoption for social studies.
Okay, Mr. Lynn.
I guess my biggest worry is that, in my past, students had to share, and that wasn't always the best thing in a classroom setting. So I hope we don't have to do that with these new.
Yes, and I think more and more districts are moving towards that digital device, and so with the ability of having those licenses, you can access it, anywhere, and you have also the possibility of having print. And so, Mrs. Herrera, this was part of our 20% that we had to spend on
Correct. So
learning.
part of ESSER 3, we had to set 20% aside for learning loss. So this can be part of that 20%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Herrera.
Okay. Do you
All
want
right,
me
we
to
have a
stay
motion on
for
the
the
floor.
rest of these? Okay.
No, I think you can sit in front, yeah.
We have a motion on the floor, right?
Yes, sir.
On that particular one?
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item X, discussion, action on the approval of science textbook adoption for grades 6 through 8. Ms. Amaniu.
Again, same process. This one has a list of the science textbook adoption following the RFP for grades 6 through 8.
Entertain a motion to
I
approve.
move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman,
Second.
by Mr. Ramos. Any discussion, members of the board?
Yeah, this brings up another question. If it's going to be digitized and in the classroom, is every student going to have a device at
We-
their disposal?
Yes, we have devices for, we're a one-to-one district now. And so students that don't have a device is because they haven't requested one or because they've lost the ability to keep one because they haven't taken care of the one that was issued to them.
And I'm thinking in the classroom setting, does everyone have a device?
They're issued to them, so they take it home and bring it back at
they
the
come back
elementary.
and-
Yes, But we have carts available at school sites where we can also pull some extra devices.
Well, in my mind again, if somebody forgets one, are they sharing? That doesn't always work, you know, so,
Yes.
so I was
Okay.
just a concern.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, right?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion, members of the board, on that one? Anything administration wants to add?
No, we're good.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Yes. Item Y, discussion action on the approval of the science textbook adoption for grades 9 through 12. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay, as presented, this is again science, following the same process funded by ESSER, and this will replace our 9 through 12 curriculum textbooks for science.
Motion on the floor.
Move to approve.
Second
Second.
by Mr. Smith. Any more explanation or anything you want to do about that? Members of the board, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Yes. Item Z, discussion action on the approval of the math textbook adoption for grades K through 8. Ms. Samaniego.
This is, again, for K-8, and you've heard and you've probably helped your own children or your own child if they're a teacher, and we've been using Eureka Math for the longest time. And so the recommendation for K-8 is as follows, and it is iReady, Curriculum Associates iReady, and that's for K-8.
Motion on the floor. For
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion, board
Yeah,
members?
Mr.
Yes, go ahead.
Chair. That's exactly the point. We're away from that now,
Yes,
the Eureka
yes.
Math. So how does the iReady compare, or what makes it better?
I'll have Mrs. Herrera.
iReady is incredible. When the presenters presented Curriculum Associates iReady, our elementary teachers were amazed at what the program is able to do. Specifically, the reason they chose this one was because of our subgroups, our ESS, our EL, our migrant, and our McKinney-Vento students. That was really the deciding factor, because they were really looking for differentiated instruction to make sure we were meeting the needs of all of our students. And Curriculum Associates really targets our subgroups. So teachers are able to go in and modify lessons. They can modify assessments. It will track students' progress. It will level our students for the teachers. They also offer extensive professional development, which we intend to roll out during the summertime and pay teachers to come in and learn about the program. But our K through 8 teachers were incredibly impressed with Curriculum Associates.
I'm glad to hear that. Musicians only count to 4, but I don't want that to hamper all the other students.
Bianca.
Oh, yes, Miss Bianca. Bianca Hernandez was also instrumental in this math book adoption. So
President, members of the board, Samaniego, Ms. Cox, I feel to answer your question, how is this going to be different than Eureka Math? It is a textbook that goes back to guided, algorithmic, procedural type problems. It's a textbook that has examples for parents at home with their children, trying to help them and guide them. They can look at example 1, example 2, because there's going to be that connection. That old school idea of what a math textbook used to be is going to exist again, but it's also going to incorporate the new Common Core standards that Arizona is based on. It's the different type of mathematical reasoning and thinking that is out there that's part of the new standards, but bringing families, parents, relatives, grandparents, everybody who's working with their child at home, we want to be working with their child at home. It's going to bring back what a textbook used to be, that in my opinion, Eureka wasn't. It wasn't a friendly text to send home with families to help and to guide their children. Don't get me wrong, Eureka Math is an amazing program. But when kids and I'll even say teachers lack some of the theory behind the mathematics, it's very hard to teach that inquiry-based aspect that Eureka Math is. So districts that excel with Eureka Math, it's because the skill set and the foundation is there. They're just building on it and taking it to another level. But what's happened recently in math education specifically post-COVID, is the fundamental skills are not there. And we need to get back to that, and we need to get back to that soon, like yesterday, because our students are falling further and further behind. So I think just to answer the question that you asked, how is this different? It's going to be a more user-friendly item for families, siblings, anybody who's working with a child K-8 to be able to help those children better perform and better understand their mathematics.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I that's wonderful. I was, as the granddad now, I was having trouble, but then I only count to 4. Are we able to get data reports onto our improvement or things like that?
Yes, we can definitely have and presentations more on an ongoing basis. So definitely when we get all of these new curriculum, all these new textbooks.
Yes, and Curriculum Associates will actually track the data for us. It tracks student progress over time.
Thank you.
Okay, Alejandra, after you heard all of this, that you found out that they said we should have been doing this a long time ago and everything, do you feel you've been cheated out of it? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Your textbooks. You
Maybe
can
she
stay.
wants to
No,
stay.
I
She wants to stay and get to eat in the new cafeteria. She wants to do the construction class and try the new text.
No, I'm just, I think Bianca said we should have gone back and done this a long time ago, reality. And she's sitting over there hearing all of this and thinking, my God, I wasted all that time. And so you're not going to sue the district. You can't because you got a conflict of interest there. Okay, so thank you very much, Bianca. And thank you, Deborah. Oh, we have another one, right?
Yes.
We have, well, let's get this one voted on.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes, and now we have AA, discussion action on the approval of the math textbook adoption for grades 9 through 12. Ms. Samaniego.
And 912 is Savas and Vision Math, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, it'll be geometry, algebra for college students, stats modeling, and elementary stats. And so this will be different for our 912 group. And Ms. Bianca, do you want to speak to that? Why Savas?
Oh, yeah, you explain myself.
Well, so along with the changes that are occurring in education, really, I think the math department, I know I have a couple of math teachers here as well. We could say that the math curriculums that we looked at, there weren't many that came out to bid. There were only 4.
There were 8 for math.
But that had the secondary.
Oh,
There were only,
AP classes.
yeah, there were only 4 that we were able to go through and evaluate, which was fine. We agreed that any of those textbooks are functional for us to be able to teach out of. It was really just looking at the fine details, kind of the bells and whistles. And what Savas or Pearson, because Pearson's higher ed is what services our pre-calculus, our AP stats, regular stats. Envision is the AGA, what we refer to as AGA, which is Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, is that they had just come off of a new release. So they have the 2024 release. So with Savas or AGA, we're getting the most bells and whistles at the time that they're available. Some of the other publishers are due for a release coming up, and we just felt like Savas had the most amount of resources, like Ms. Herrera had said, just the subgroups addressing the ESS, the EL learners, all of those components that we know that is an area where we struggle in instruction, being able to accommodate those students as best they deserve to be served. So that is ultimately the reason why we went with SABIS, AGA or Envision Math, and the Pearson at the higher level. It's the newest release.
Are
And
these all digitized also?
they also have, yes, they have all,
And hard copies and?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's get a motion on the floor. You stay up there, Bianca. They may have some more questions. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Go ahead, Mr. Lehman. You have more questions
that's
for
fine.
Bianca? Oh, I thought, Mr. Smith, any questions or discussion regarding anything? Mr. Ramos?
No.
Anything you want to add?
No, just a lot of work was done for all of these, and I want to thank all the committees.
Thanks, Bianca.
okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Deborah. We have a motion on the floor, right? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes. Item 4, executive session. The governing board may vote into executive session pursuant to ARX 38-431.03, subsection A, number 1, for the following personnel matters. A, consideration of 2023-24 employment contracts and benefits for the following administrative staff: Ana Samaniego, Superintendent; Denise Cox, Assistant Superintendent; and Cesar Soto, Chief Financial and Operations Officer. Entertain a motion to do that.
I move to enter into executive session.
Second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion? Roll call. Excuse me, before you have the roll, Mr. Soto still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to go into the superintendent's office because of the them both being on the phone, and but I want Mr. Soto available to go over these figures again if we need him in there. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes. So we'll adjourn into executive session. open session. Members of the board, we're now at discussion A, action on the approval of 2023-2024 employment contracts and benefits for the following administrative staff. I'm going to recommend to the board that for Ana Samaniego, she be offered a contract next year with all benefits included at $161,733.60, and recommend for Cesar Soto, the business manager, a salary with all wages inclusive, $61. I'll entertain that motion.
I move that we approve the numbers as given to us by Mr. Brain.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion? All right, do you need clarification on that? Did you get those numbers? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes, and before we close the meeting, I want to thank you, ladies, for all the hard work you've done this year, and that you've had a lot of issues to deal with, and you've done them. The board's very, very appreciative. You've done them magnificently, and we appreciate that. We wish we could do better, but with the constraints and all the things that we have to live with, and you know it as well as we do, we tried to do the best we could for you.
Well, thank you, Board, for trusting in us and in the work that we do, and there's no better job than being an educator. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
By Mr. Lindeman, is there a second? Second. By Mr. Ramos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jana.
Aye.
Thanks, Caesar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jana.
Bye-bye.
Go have dinner.